Welcome to Think About It with your host, Jayden Miller.
Thank you, and welcome to Think About It with Jayden Miller. Happy New Year to everybody. I hope you had a wonderful, wonderful Christmas. I am back with a new episode of my podcast. I have not done a podcast in over a year. I have been very, very busy. Aside from my regular job, I'm a photographer on the weekends. I'm working on my PhD. So much going on in my life that sometimes you have to put other things on the back burner. But this year I am back, and my commitment is to do more podcasting. Now, I'm not going to say I'm going to do one every week, because then what if I don't do it? Then I'm a liar. I'm not going to say that I'm going to do one every 2 weeks, but I'm going to do them more regularly. Okay, so regularly may mean once a week. It may mean once every 2 weeks. It may mean once a month, but it will be regularly. It might be 2 a week. It just all depends on what is going on in my life at the time. So again, I thank you guys for listening today, and I hope that this year, 2025, is going to be a fascinating year for me. I am already calling it for myself. For those of you that know a little bit about astrology, I guess I'm sort of in my villain era, and I'm just looking forward to all of the wonderful things that I am due, that I deserve to come my way. Like Glorilla says, I'm on a mission, okay? And I'm going to get back all those things that I lost in the past. So, but anyway, what is this podcast going to be about this particular day, this first of the year podcast? Well, I have assembled a bunch of questions from friends around the country, students, some former, some current, and family members, just wanting to get my opinion about some things, or to find out a little bit more about me and that kind of thing. And so what I did was I compiled a bunch of questions, and I am simply going to answer them. So I guess this first podcast is going to be sort of an interview session, even though there is no interviewer. I guess I'm kind of the interviewer and interviewee. So I'm interviewing myself based upon questions that others have submitted to me. So they are in no certain order or anything like that. I'm just gonna talk, and which is, I guess, what a podcast is about. It's just about talking. But I do have high hopes for it, though. Before I get into these questions, I do have high hopes for it. I'm gonna tackle some subjects and deal with some issues and share my opinions, and they are my opinions. Before I go on any further, I do want to say this, though, that I do believe in freedom of speech, and this is my podcast. I am not at work or anything like that, so I am not precluded from saying certain things. And so if you are an older person and you have children that listen to my podcast, I will say this again: parental discretion is advised, because sometimes I am going to say some things that normally I wouldn't say at work, in a school environment, or elsewhere. But I'm going to say them on my podcast, because this is my podcast, and we still live in the United States of America. They are still united. I don't know what's going to happen after January, but this is after January 20th, rather. But I do know what's going to happen today, the 1st of January, okay? And I'm going to say whatever the hell I want to say, and that's how I'm going to be on my podcast. So in my work environment, I have to be cautious of what I say, even though sometimes I'm not, but you know what I mean. But on my podcast, I get to say what the hell I want to say. So there we go. That's how this is going to be. So, but I'm going to talk about a variety of different topics throughout this 2025. Some of them will be about school and education. Some will be about photography, which I absolutely love. Some will be about relationships, which I see every single day. I hear about, I talk about, I advise about. I share my own experiences, and so I will do a little bit of that. gosh, there's just so much to talk about. Sports. There's just so much to talk about this year. So I'm really looking forward to really engaging in some real lively discussions. And I'm also looking forward to hearing from you and getting your feedback. So let's go ahead and dive into these questions. I'm not going to have this podcast be too long because I know this is New Year's Day and you guys have family to be with and football games to watch and all other kinds of stuff. So I'm just going to randomly throw out questions that I have here. I have them on my screen and I'm looking at them. And so I'll just pull some out here. I'll start here. Someone asked, what is my favorite book? What is your favorite book? My favorite book comes from when I was in high school. And I had an English class, and actually an English literature class, and we were assigned a book to read. And I'm going to admit to you that I did not read this book right away. Actually, I did not read this book until years later. So I had to buy the book because you had to bring it to class with you. And then the funny thing is also, I think I was a sophomore in English literature class, but we actually had to discuss it. And I remember having a teacher and actually having to discuss the book. And I think what I did was I might have read like a paragraph or something while the teacher was asking other people questions so that when she got to me, I could at least answer the questions. And I cannot tell you why I didn't read the book, probably because I was a sophomore in high school. And, you know, the only thing on my mind was how I looked and what girl liked me or what girl I liked. So that probably was it. But the name of the book is The Count of Monte Cristo. The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexander Dumas. He was a French, actually, he was a mixed race person back in the early 1800s when he wrote this book. He also wrote The Count of Monte, no, not The Count of Monte Cristo, The Three Musketeers. He also wrote The Three Musketeers as well. But so sophomore in high school, okay, that's when I got the book, and I didn't read it until I was in college. And I probably didn't read it until I was really into my college career. So not my freshman year, sophomore year, junior year, and probably in my senior year in college, I actually sat down and took the time to read this book. And this book has transformed my life. Okay. Now, I mean, for those of you that aren't really readers or don't know anything about the book, it's about this guy, Edmond Dantes. And I'm not going to get into a whole lot of it because there's a whole bunch of other questions I need to answer. But basically, he was set up and sent to prison and met a man in prison that transformed his life and that actually he learned a lot from the Abbé. I forget how you pronounce that, but he was like a priest and who was also in prison. But anyway, to make a long story short, it's a book about revenge, okay, and how he was able to get out of prison and seek revenge or sought revenge on those individuals that sent him to prison and utterly destroyed his life. And when I say destroyed his life, they destroyed his previous life. He actually became very, very wealthy. And that's how he exacted his revenge. And I like the book because it's a book about redemption. It's a book about revenge. And that he gets back at the people that did him wrong. Now, let me talk about that for a minute. OK, I'm a Cancer. OK, born in July. All right. And Cancers are really known to be sensitive people, you know, very caring people. And for those of you that know me very well, for those of you that see me every day, and I have students out there that might be listening, but you know how I can be. I mean, I'm a loving person. You know, I give stuff every single day, always giving, but you know, I also match energy. OK, and if somebody is rude or ugly to me, I can flip the script really quick, like in a second. OK, I think part of that comes from being a cop, too, you know, because being a cop in Chicago, I always had to be on my guard, you know, because you stop a vehicle and 1 minute, you know, suspects are acting one way and then the next minute they flip on you. Then you've got to be able to flip just as quickly as they do. So I think that's that's probably where I get some of that from. But I think really it just comes from me being a Cancer. And I'm not a big astrology person, but I do believe some things. And so if you know anything about Cancer people, loving people, sensitive people, but when you do us wrong, we'll get your ass back. Okay, some way, shape, or form. It might be years later, and getting you back might just mean ignoring you, but the Count of Monte Cristo is just really this great book about, how that you took this loving man, this gentle man, and made him someone that exacted revenge in the most horrible ways against his enemies. And if you read the book, you'll find that all of them deserved exactly what they got. So, all right, here, let's go to the next question. What are your political leanings? And what that simply means is, do you vote Republican? Do you vote Democrat? All that kind of stuff. And, I'm always reluctant to talk about politics because not everybody. See, I guess I'm a historian to some degree. OK, and I truly believe in the thoughts behind the creation of our government. All right. And because I have thorough knowledge of it, I mean, I teach it, I've taught it, but I mean, not only, at a college level, too, because I've taught college, I've taught high school, I've taught middle school, kindergarten, and then also life lessons. But I've taught. And so I know how our government came to be and the thoughts behind what the founding fathers wanted it to be. OK, now, the problem with that is there are a whole lot of people today that are running our government, and those that are voters that didn't listen in history class, okay, that got F's in history, that got D's in history because they didn't listen. They didn't pay attention to what the teacher was trying to teach them about how our country started, okay? So I'm one of those kind of people that believes in the ideals. Now, I know that the ideals are different than what happens in reality, okay? I do, all right? But the ideals are strong. We wanted a government, or at least the founding fathers wanted a government where, it was we the people and not the government over the people, like they were trying to get away from under the king and parliament in Great Britain. So I say all of that to say that I believe that, people should be respected in their beliefs. OK, so if you are a Republican, I respect that. If you are a Democrat, I respect that. If you are an independent, I respect that. But a lot of people don't respect that. OK, and so I'll give you a couple of hints and experiences. Like, I taught high school government. OK, and I always teach from the middle, meaning that, or I always taught from the middle. And what I mean by that is, I'm not biased, I wasn't biased in my teaching. So, you have, back when I taught high school, you had Joe Biden and you had Donald Trump. Okay. And if I said one thing about Joe Biden positive, you would have students, and this was during the time of COVID. So, you never knew who, because we did classes on Zoom. So, parents would be in the background or something like that listening, and they could only hear the positive thing you said about Biden. OK, but they would not hear that you are being totally unbiased when you said something positive about Trump. OK, but they could only hear the positive about Biden. So they would automatically assume, because as you all know, I'm African American, that must mean that I am pro-Democrat, which is absolutely asinine. I would get emails from parents saying, well, you have a lot of influence over my children, and I hope that you'll be, unbiased and blah, blah, blah. And I'd be like, dude, did you, where are you getting this from? Why are you so ignorant? There are a lot of ignorant ass people out there. And, they only hear what they want to hear. Okay. And so, the way that I vote is certainly my business, but I mean, I'm not afraid to say that I'm independent, and actually my registration says that I'm an unaffiliated voter. And why am I an unaffiliated voter, or why am I independent? That's because sometimes I vote Democrat and sometimes I vote Republican, okay? Because none of the two parties have exactly or do exactly what I expect them to do. And I don't want them to. I want to be able to be independent and choose whether or not I like this Republican or this Republican ideal or that Democratic ideal. I don't want to be, marginalized into, oh, well, you must be a Democrat because, you're black and black people vote Democrat. And that's not totally true. There's some ignorant black people that vote Republican, just like there's some ignorant black people that vote Democrat. And there's some ignorant white people that vote Republican just because, okay? And there's some ignorant white people that vote Democrat just because, all right? And so I tend to not fall into those lines. I'm somebody that is independent. So there's the answer to your question. But I'll go one step further and say this, that, because a lot of people, tend to ignore stuff, and I just can't. I'm really big about being a truth teller, okay? And I'll go back to this whole thing about being a cancer, that we cannot stand people that lie to us, okay? I mean, we just can't. I mean, loyalty and don't lie, because you don't have to lie to me, okay? But there are some people out there that just ignore things. Okay. And I'll go back to being someone that is an historian of such. I teach about Adolf Hitler, and I teach about his rise to power. And all people have to do really is go back into history. It repeats itself time and time again. Okay. So let's talk about slavery. There is actually more slavery today than there was during the transatlantic slave trade. Okay. Don't believe it. Google it. There is. Okay. Where are all these missing people at? Where are these missing young girls at and young boys that sold off into slavery, sometimes sex slavery, human trafficking? All right. So history repeats itself. All right. And people tend to ignore things, all right, that are right before their eyes. And so, I mean, I'm going to use this one politician as an example, Matt Gaetz from Florida, a Republican. He just resigned his position. He was going to become attorney general until this whole ethics probe has come out against him from the House of Representatives. Here's someone that has paid for sex with teenagers, okay? Paid for sex with teenagers, all right? And drugs. And yet there are people on the Republican side that were going to ignore all of that ugliness. And then this is the other thing about some on the Republican side. They tend to want to be conservative Christians, okay? And yet they ignore everything there is in the Bible about someone of this caliber, Matt Gaetz, that buys sex, number one, which is illegal, and from teenagers, number two, that is also illegal, underage teenagers, okay? And then also on top of that, illegal drugs. But yet they were going to ignore all of that and allow him to be attorney general. See, that's a problem for me. That's a problem. All right. And then, again, people don't like the truth. So if I were a convicted felon, okay, I couldn't teach in school. And I would beckon to say that if I were a convicted felon and applied to teach at a school and they considered hiring me, there would be a ton of parents that would come out of the woodworks, okay, that would want to say, no, we don't want a convicted felon to teach our students, but yet you're putting one in the office of the president. So go figure. All right, go figure. That's just truth. All right. Some people don't like the truth. They want to hide behind their own rational or irrational beliefs about why they choose who they choose. OK, but I'll just end that one with this and just say when most folks stop trying to be right and just start trying to do right and live right, they learn that they actually lean a little left. So I'll leave it at that. Where are all the places you have lived? Here's a little lighter topic. Well, I was born in Chicago and lived there I mean, can I actually say most of my life now? I guess I can still say most of my life. I lived there most of my life. Actually, absolutely hated Chicago. Hated living there. Hated the weather. It seemed like it was just gloomy and cloudy every day. I mean, I can remember sunny days from my childhood. That's just how bad I thought Chicago was. Having said that, I lived a good childhood. I had friends in the neighborhood and really great memories like that. I just did not like Chicago, probably because it was just too big. And then I ended up working there as a cop for 20 something years. And so, again, a lot of gloom and ugliness because you get to see all of the ugly things that people do to each other and all of the ugly things that just so happen. So I was born and raised there. But I tended to always love going south. And so my parents were from Mississippi, so I actually always loved going there and actually lived there for a year and taught there for a year. But I've also lived in Texas. I've lived in Maryland for a little bit when I was a little younger. Wisconsin, Colorado, still own a house in Colorado too. Where else have I lived? I think that's it. So mainly in those states, now Arizona, of course. And I would say that the state that I probably loved living in the most was Texas. But Arizona is growing on me. And so I really, really like it here. Let's see. What's another good question that people sent to me? What are your biggest pet peeves? My biggest pet peeves. Gosh, that's one that I've got to really think about. I guess my biggest pet peeve is when I'm talking and people are people are talking when I'm talking. That means they're not listening to me. That happens in classroom a lot. So if I'm teaching, or if I'm talking and then I look around the classroom and see other people that are talking, and it usually doesn't happen very often, but usually there might be then that my focus is off, and that all comes with, and I know a lot of times people don't understand this, and I try to explain it, but so I've had these varying careers, being in law enforcement and being in education, and so my law enforcement career helped shape how I am as an educator, whether it's been as a teacher or as an assistant principal. And so I see things from a different vantage point than those that have never been in law enforcement before. So for example, as an administrator, as an assistant principal, I could investigate and tell when people are lying, and I would always catch kids up and stuff, or their parents actually too. But then as a teacher, I'm really focused on what's going on in my classroom. And so, if there's somebody talking, my attention then goes over there and off of what I'm supposed to be focused on, because as a law enforcement officer, you can't just be focused on what's going on over here. You've got to be focused on what's going on all around you. And so that's why I tend to have this hypersensitive ability to be able to tell when people are not listening to me, or when they're distracting, which ends up as distracting me because they're talking instead of listening to what I'm saying. So I guess that's really it. When people try to talk when you talk, when I watch interviews, and I see people being interviewed and the interviewer interrupts them, that's another pet peeve. I mean, when someone's trying to explain something to you and then you interrupt them, that's just rude. And I guess I just don't like rude behavior. Probably just comes from my upbringing. And I like people to be, kind and nice, and maybe that just has something to do with me being a Cancer too. So here's another question. Do you think you are a good educator? I prepare myself. And so I think being prepared can make anyone better at being an educator. And when I say educator, I mean whether it be a principal or an assistant principal or a teacher or what have you. I'm just prepared. Whether it's in my classroom, I'm prepared. When I was, whether it's as an assistant principal, always prepared for meetings or whatever it is. I think that's what it all boils down to, just being prepared. So, as a teacher, I would always like to have my lesson plans together. When you come into my classroom, you know what we're going to talk about that day. OK, I've got things planned out. It's not disorganized. It's not chaotic. And so I think just being organized in that way helps. Now, there's this personal side to it, because you can be a good educator and be prepared, but you can also be a good educator and students don't like you and don't respect you. You can still be good at what you do, but not good in how people perceive you and deal with you. And so I would like to say I'm a good educator because I'm prepared, but I would also like to say that I'm a good educator because I was a great cop, but also because I really get to know those that I'm trying to educate. I talk to them, I spend time with them, I listen to them, which is the main thing about being a good educator is just listening to students. I don't treat them like little babies because they are not. I'm around 12 and 13-year-olds every day, all day. OK, well, not every day, but most days. And 12 and 13-year-olds today are not 12 and 13-year-olds when I was growing up. There's a total difference. They are much, much more in tune with society. They are much more in tune with the knowledge of the good and bad that goes on in the world. They have a lot more smarts when it comes to sex and sexual education and all of those kinds of things. They are much more mindful about who they are and how they look not only to themselves, but to other people. So it's very different. And so you have to be able to accommodate yourself to them and not necessarily them accommodate themselves to you all the time. All right. And what I mean by that is sometimes you have to remember that, hey, these are young people that are coming up that are much smarter, that live in a different era, and they have issues that you never had to deal with. I mean, a lot of the students that I deal with, they have issues that I never, ever had to deal with as a child. I didn't have to deal with divorce and, parents, families being split up and drug abuse in families and, the Department of Children and Family Services being called. And I didn't have to it just was that was not something that went on in my neighborhood. It was just not like that. But kids today, they deal with those kinds of things. They have, and then mental health issues. There's just so much that they deal with. And so sometimes, it can't always be about the history lesson. Sometimes you need to, just listen to what they have to say about what's going on with their parents or what's going on with their boyfriend or their girlfriend, and listen. And if asked for advice, give it. And if not, don't. Or if you have a better relationship, maybe then share some wisdom with them. But it's just different. And being a good educator is one that can teach well, but can listen well. All right, let me see. What's another one? Oh, here's some about relationships. Let's talk about those. Here's a question. How have your views on love and partnership changed over time? That is a tough one. They have changed. I still believe in love. I really do, and hope to be in love again at some point. But it will be different, though. That's because I'm different. My views on partnership have changed. I grew up in a time where chivalry was and what I mean by chivalry, for those of you that don't know what that means, that you should open doors for a woman, and that kind of stuff. That part of me has not changed, but what has changed for me is understanding and knowing that sometimes people can be on some bullshit, men and women. Okay. And for a long time, society has led us to believe that, women are victims and women are very often. So don't get me wrong, women are, but then women can also be victimizers. Okay. I know this because as a cop, I've seen many instances of women that have abused men in many kinds of ways. All right. Now, there are those people out there that are liars and deceivers that want to, and that have this feminist view that, oh, well, men are dominant and all that kind of stuff. And that's a bunch of crap. There is domestic violence and domestic abuse, and it is wrong. And women have for many years been victims of that. But then also there's this other side, okay, that a lot of people don't want to discuss because it's not, something that society, has approved. But I'm approving the shit because I know I've been there and I've been a victim of it, that sometimes women can be on some bullshit. And I'm speaking just as a man, and I'm not talking about anybody else's experiences but mine. OK. And as a man, you have to have your guard up, and you have to be careful, and you have to let people know exactly what you will and will not tolerate. And you need to let that be known at the very beginning. So if you want to ask me, have your views on love and partnership changed over time? They have. OK, because I come from that era of being that friendly, loving, manly, chivalrous kind of guy. And I still am. But I'm not going to let you bullshit me. And so, my last relationship, I ran into that, someone that, had some daddy issues and some abandonment issues, which are legitimate issues that you should always get help for. But it's wrong when you then put all of those negative things that you as a man had nothing to do with, when they are now placed upon you. And then you have to act upon this person's negative mental health issues. And now they want to gaslight you and make you seem as though you were the wrong person. Nah, you need to go get some help. You need to get healing. So I won't date anybody that's not healed. I can tell whoever comes around me. That's why my circle is very limited. I let very, very few people into my circle because I know people can be on some bullshit. And I'm just not going to get involved in a relationship with anybody that's going to bring that toxicity, that drama. And if anybody has gone on my TikTok, I've devoted quite a bit of my TikTok to narcissism, meaning narcissistic women. Abusers. Women can be abusers. OK, yes, emotional abusers, financial abusers, physical abusers. They can be. So let's not ignore what can be fact. And I'm hoping that a lot of men are listening to this, and you can leave it, just like, for many years, women have taught women, well, you need to leave him. And I'm saying the same thing. You need to leave our ass. That's what I did. You need to leave. You need to, if it's your house, you need to tell her to get the hell out of your house. OK, you should not be privy to and not have to deal with, someone's narcissism. Relationships are supposed to be loving and kind. You guys are supposed to be building together, and you guys are supposed to work through issues together. And if you get married, it's supposed to be a great relationship, but also understanding that sometimes it's not going to be great, but that you guys still work together and strive together and fix things together. The key word there is together, not just you, And when I say you, I'm talking about the man or the woman for that fact. So whether you are a man or a woman, if you are in a toxic relationship with a narcissist, and if you don't know what a narcissist is, then you should just look it up or go on my TikTok page, because there's a whole bunch of videos dedicated to narcissism. All right. But if you are in that kind of relationship, you need to get out of it now. Okay, because it will drain you, it will change you, it will hurt you, it can kill you. All right. And you do not want that to happen. All right. And it starts young. Even in middle school, I see narcissistic behaviors already, whether it be from boys or girls. I mean, I see them, I see some girls that don't want to break up with boys because, I really love him and he's this. And I'm like, you are 12, you are 13. No, this starts young, and same thing with boys. I mean, I know one young man that I think this was really kind of like his first relationship. And and it just ended really bad. And he turned from being one of the smartest, gifted kids that I knew to one with major behavioral issues, And see, that's why I'm such a proponent of, leaving toxicity behind. You have to get away from those people, and you can't always help people. So if you get into a relationship with somebody and you notice those signs, just as easily as you got into it, get out of it. You have to say goodbye. Sorry, can't be with you. Nope. There are red flags. I see the signs. These things are non-negotiable. And it starts off at the very beginning. You need to have those conversations before you actually start saying, okay, well, this is my boyfriend or this is my girlfriend, or taking them to meet your parents or whatever it is people do today, to introduce themselves as a couple to the world. You need to let them know from the very beginning, these are my non-negotiables. These are the things that I will not deal with. For men, do not use me. Do not abuse me. Do not put your hands on me in an inappropriate way. If you've got girlfriends, don't tell them stuff about me that's not true just to make yourself look good in their eyes. All of the little ugly things that people do, don't do them, because I'll find out about. People always find out about them. For girls, if he puts his hands on you, if he's a cheater, has multiple girlfriends, you all know these things. You see them. The signs are always there. You just ignore them. You have to walk away. You have to put value on your life, and you need to do that early. And so, I've made those mistakes where I didn't put value on my life. I put value on someone's life ahead of my life, but not anymore. So I'm very cautious. You got to come correct. I need to know a little bit about you, just like you need to know a little bit about me, when we began, but people just need to be honest and upfront about what they want and who they are. And that is not something that you need to find out 6 months later or a year later. You need to have those conversations early on. So those dates that we go on, those shouldn't be just dates where I just take you to dinner and pay and then you just get to, eat for free, or we just go for long walks and all we're talking about is our love for each other and how our future is going to be wonderful. We need to be talking about, so how do you handle disagreements? Okay. How do you handle money? What if I lose my job? What are you going to do? Okay. What if we have an argument? How are we going to handle that? Okay. Are you sarcastic? Are you going to berate me? All of these kinds of questions are things that you should be asking up front. They can be disguised as questions and answers or whatever you want. You can play a game or whatever you want to, but you need to be in tune with the other person's answers. And then from that point forward, say whether or not this is somebody that you can be with. It's not always about looks. A lot of times people choose people based upon their looks. That's dumb. Okay. Now, as a man, I'll say the first thing I see is what is in front of me. But that's just because that's how we are as humans. We're wired that way. I mean, I want someone that's beautiful and has nice hair and, and takes care of themselves and, somebody that other people can say, wow, man, look at you. I mean, I'm vain just like that too. Okay. But again, the question is, how have your views on love and partnership changed over time? Okay. All right. It's not just about physical beauty. I need to know if you are an airhead or if you got a brain. Okay. I need to know what your financial status is, because it's always usually about how a man's financial status is. See, I can be rich. Okay. And then marry you. And then you come in and mess up my financial situation. See, I'm not going to let that happen. No. Mm-mm. And a smart man, a high value man, will not allow that to happen. That's why you got to be very choosy and very picky. Okay. And not just let anybody in, and not just let anybody in that's got a big butt and a smile. No. Okay. It's got to be more than that. Got to be more than that. Okay. What do you bring to the table? It's not about what I bring to the table. It's what we bring to the table. Can we do this together? Keyword again is together. All right, let me see. What's another question that I can answer? Let's see. Are you a morning or a night person? Why? I guess I'm kind of both. I mean, I get up early in the morning. I'm usually up at 4 o'clock. Because it takes me forever to get dressed. I gotta make sure I look good before I leave the house. I mean, I'm vain like that. I'm just, I mean, some people can, have to be at work at 7 o'clock and can get up at 6 o'clock and and shower, brush their teeth, do all this stuff and be at work at 7 o'clock. In an hour, I can't do that. Dude, I can't. When I get up, I need to make my bed, first of all, okay? My house has to be in order, I can't live that kind of chaotic lifestyle where I can just get up and just go and just leave things. I have this, what if I die or something? And then the police come to my house and, they're walking through like, dude, man, this dude just died, but he was a mess, I can't. Or what if you die and your family members come and they've got to pick up your pieces and they come in and like, wow, look at, he don't make his bed. Look at the sink full of dishes and all that. I just can't live like that. I can't do that. So I need to be up early. But I also take my time. Sometimes I'm like watching television because for me, it's about my mind for the day. OK, so I might watch something positive because I need to be positive that day. I mean, especially if I'm going to be around 12 and 13-year-olds all day. And some of them, have issues. Some of them aren't positive. Some of them come with their toxicity, and so you need to be, because you can't always, you can't always be that authoritarian. You can't always just dump on them. You've got to be able to meet them and sometimes bring them up to a certain level. And so, I like to like watch positive things in the morning or listen to positive things that gets me in the right frame of mind. So that takes time. And then I need to iron my clothes. And sometimes it takes me 20 minutes just to decide what I'm gonna wear, And then I like to sit down and actually have breakfast every morning. Okay. So none of this just grabbing something and rushing out the door or trying to eat it in my car, because I like my car to be clean and I don't like crumbs in it. So I'm not going to do that. So why can't I just get up a little earlier and take my time? I'm not in a rush, and that way when I leave the house, I'm in the right frame of mind. I'm not rushing and I'm just good. So I'm a morning person in one respect, but then I'm also a night person too. I mean, depending on what's going on, I might go to bed early, but I also don't mind staying up if there's something that I like to watch, or if there's someone that I'm talking to, or if I have a visitor and we have really, really interesting conversation, I'll stay up late to have a great conversation with people. So I guess I'm kind of both. All right. Oh, here's one about sports. What is your favorite sport to watch and or play? Well, let's start with playing, because well, actually, I watched it too. Well, here, I'll just start off this way. My grandmother introduced me to baseball. All right, when I was a little kid, because she used to watch baseball. And we have, I mean, my grandmother certainly has passed on by now, but I have those great memories of watching with her the Chicago Cubs and the Chicago White Sox as a kid. And I remember, she took me to games before, and it was just such a great experience, being with her and having that love for the game together. And it lasted, I mean, from the time that I was a kid all the way through college. She died when I was in college. But I mean, we had that memory together, and I actually named my first daughter after her too. But so baseball. And then as a kid, I played baseball, loved baseball. And as an adult, when I was a police chief, I coached there was a combination of, on my team was a combination of police officers and dispatchers, and then some people from the community. So it wasn't all cops, but man, so I was a manager player. So, cause I actually played too. So I've always loved softball. And then, in middle school, I had this great opportunity this year to volunteer as a coach, for the softball team, which was fantastic. It was a great experience. I got to hang out with some wonderful young ladies that, I had gotten to know, over the years. And it was just a great experience, just hanging out with them and getting to watch them become better. I'm a father of daughters, and so I have a tendency to lean towards girls, mainly because, as a father, you want to see women, you want to see them grow up to be exceptional women, and you want them to grow up to be strong. It's that girl power. You want them to have that. And so and then also you want them to be able to see men in a positive light. Okay. And so I don't mind being a role model to women. I don't mind, to young ladies. I don't mind showing them how men should act and I tell them all the time how boys should act. So for example, if I'm teaching a class or something, girls go first. That's part of that whole chivalry thing, and there's nothing wrong with that. I want them to be treated as ladies, but also I want them to know that they can be independent and strong at the same time as well. And so I don't mind being that role model for certainly young boys and men, but I don't mind being a role model for young ladies too, because if they come to me and ask me, about something or a situation, I'm going to tell them the truth, and I'm going to share it with them from a male point of view, and then I'm going to show it with them from the right. I'm going to share it with them from the right point of view. And then I'm going to ask them to look at it from their point of view. And if there's some discrepancy somewhere in there, then we might need to fix some things. But I think young ladies deserve the truth from men, and they need to see men acting accordingly and positively and appropriately. All right. Do I have anything else? Let me see. There's a whole bunch of questions here. I hope that you guys are enjoying this conversation. Let me just tell you a couple of things while I'm sitting here and enjoying it. Please like, share, and subscribe on my YouTube channel. Yes, I do have a YouTube channel. And like, comment, and follow on your favorite podcast platform. So today you may be listening to me on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts or so many other ones. Well, keep doing so. But yes, I'm on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, Google Podcasts. I don't think Google Podcasts is still in existence, but I am also on iHeartRadio and on Amazon and a whole bunch of other ones. So continue to like and follow and share. That helps me out tremendously. All right, let me see. Maybe I'll do one more because I don't want this to be too long, and I think I'm getting up on 48 minutes. So let me see. One or two more. Like I said, there's a whole bunch of questions here. How about we do this one? this one might be helpful to some people too that are listening. What qualities do you look for in a friend? What qualities do you look for in a friend? Mine are a little different because as I mentioned, being a Cancer, not that that's, this big major thing. It's just an astrological thing that I mention from time to time. You have a tendency to be very loving and very loyal to people. And when people betray you, you take that to heart. It's like a wound that never ever heals. Okay. And if it does heal with time and with healing or what have you, it's still, the scar is still there. And it makes it very, very difficult to trust somebody else ever again. You don't like people to lie to you either, So what qualities do you look for in a friend? I think the first thing is there needs to be this trial period before you start calling people, these are my friends, okay? I don't like the term associates and all that kind of stuff. How come people can't just exist, without there being a title? So, I like you. We hang out, but that does not yet make us friends yet, because I don't think there's been a test to determine whether or not we are friends yet, whether it be from your point of view or from my point of view. Okay. There might need to be a test of your loyalty to see if you're truly a friend. There may need to be a test of your ability to be honest with me and tell the truth. And what I mean by that is a good friend will tell you the truth. Okay. Not that hurtful kind of truth, that destroys you, because some people think that, they can just be blatantly honest with you, about things to the point where it hurts your feelings. That's not a true friend. Some people think that, I'm a true friend because I'm blatantly honest and I'll just tell you what I think. See, you can't do that with everybody. And I've come to find out that I can't do that with everybody because, again, as a Cancer, we are blatantly honest, okay? But you can destroy somebody by being blatantly honest. That doesn't mean that you can't be honest. What it means is that there has to be a way that you devise that you can share with them a truth, okay, without destroying them and hurting their feelings or destroying their esteem. There's a way you can do that. The Isley Brothers have a song. This is for people, that are in relationships and one of them doesn't want to be in a relationship anymore. And it's Let Me Down Easy. You can let somebody down easy. You don't have to be, I don't want to be with you no more, and you this and you that, or you don't fulfill this and all that. People think that, that kind of honesty is respected. No, that kind of honesty is not respected. That's just hurtful. It's just like sarcasm. Sarcasm is this form of honesty. I actually hate sarcasm, but it's this form of sarcasm. It's an acceptable way for people to be mean to other people, but yet tell the truth. Okay. And it's a bunch of bullshit. You can be honest with people and you can tell people stuff without hurting them. It can be in a dignified kind of way. I've had to tell people stuff. I've had to tell students, well, you're probably going to get an F in my class. Okay. Now I can be real ugly and say, well, the reason why you're going to get this F because you ain't turning all your assignments. You sit up in my classroom and all you do is run your mouth. You have come to school, see. That's you can say that's ugly, okay? But you can also say, you're a great student, but these are the reasons why you're not passing, and then show them why they're not and give them an opportunity to fix it, okay? You're still being honest, all right? You're still letting them fix the problem, okay? But being blatantly honest can destroy people. In relationships, I mean, there are women that tell men that, well, you don't make enough money, or you're not handsome enough, and those things might be the truth. But imagine what that does to that person by being blatantly honest with them. Okay, that can destroy them. So the whole thing about being a friend is looking for someone that is going to be honest with you, but in a way that is not to destroy you. You can tell somebody they're wrong without wronging them. Okay, you can tell someone that, hey, you're going down the wrong path, okay, without shaming them. You can do those things and be a true friend. So there needs to be this period of time where we both feel each other out and then determine whether or not we can be friends. So we can hang out, we can, call each other and go visit each other and do all of those things. But we don't have to put a title on it until there have been some solid tests to determine whether or not you are truly with me. Because when you really get into the shit with somebody, you find out if somebody is really your friend or not. And then you get upset when you find out that wasn't my friend. Well, yeah, it wasn't. But that's partly your fault, because what did you do? You called them a friend before you knew them they were a friend. All right. So there needs to be some test of loyalty and some other tests to determine whether or not somebody can be a true friend. So that's how it is for me. My circle is very, very small. Okay, I only let a few. I mean, I have several best friends. Okay, they are within my circle. They know me very well. Then I have people that's outside of that circle. I have family members that's outside of that circle. Okay, that I don't let come in very close. Okay, because you get to know people over a while, and you get to know who can disturb your peace. And you want people outside of that circle that that can possibly disturb your peace. You only want people within your circle that are going to be for you, okay? Even when you're down, they're still for you. Even when life has hit you the hardest, they're still for you. Those are the people that you can consider to be a friend. And sometimes that takes time. And only you will know. But let there be some tests to determine that. Okay, I'm going to do just one more because we're coming up on an hour. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me on this first day of January 2025. I hope I'm providing you with some information or some advice that's helpful. But let's do one more. This is a good one. And I actually don't know the answer to this one, so I'm going to have to really think about this. But the question is, if you could have dinner with any historical figure, who would it be and why? Wow. I am usually not stumped for an answer, but I do not have an answer for this one. Let me think about this. If you could have dinner with any historical figure, who would it be and why? What comes to mind is people like Martin Luther King Jr. or Malcolm X or Abraham Lincoln and those kinds of people. But actually, no. Gosh, any historical figure. Who would it be and why? It wouldn't be, some asshole-ish people like Adolf Hitler or anybody like that. I mean, why would I want to sit down with somebody like that? It would be fascinating to learn why he thought. But I don't think I'd want to waste my time. But gosh, I probably would. And see, it says historical figure. So I'm trying to think of a historical figure. Historical. History. Who can I think back in time that I would really, really want to have dinner with? Well, I would probably have to say, I'll go ahead and say Franklin D. Roosevelt. All right. He was president of the United States during the Great Depression and during World War II. He was the longest serving president and he actually died while he was in office, coming to the close of World War II. I would say that I would like to just talk to him about the Depression, and I would like to talk to him about America during that time and what possibly he could have done to have made things better. And what I mean is this, and again, as someone that has taught history, I know a lot about America during this time. And I know that the Nazis in Germany, before World War II broke out, came to the United States into the South and learned how to treat Jews by watching how Southern Americans treated black people. And he was president during this time. All right. During World War II, he was president when, just prior to the war breaking out, and actually at the beginnings of the war, when Jewish people were trying to come to the United States to escape Nazi persecution under the hands of Adolf Hitler and his idiots, that many of them were sent back to Europe and weren't allowed to come into the United States. Now, some of that was just policy, and the president is limited in his power to some degree. But there's also things called executive orders, okay, which, he did put out, but I'll get to that in a minute. But under his presidency, he denied Jewish people coming to the United States, okay? And then also under his presidency, when Japan attacked the United States at Pearl Harbor during World War II, he put a lot of Japanese American citizens. These are people that were born in the United States, which makes them American citizens that just so happen to be of Japanese descent. Put them in concentration camps under an executive order. So I would like to ask him a number of questions. First of all, how come you didn't allow Jews to come here when you could have used an executive order and prevented a whole bunch of them from being killed, but yet you used an executive order to put a bunch of Japanese in concentration camps? I'd like to know the answer to that. I'd also like to know why, under your presidency, and especially with the wife that you had, Eleanor Roosevelt, who was a very, very kind-hearted woman when it came to civil rights and those kinds of things, why didn't you do more? Because you could, during this time, during the Great Depression and during World War II, that's when the country really should have united behind patriotism and not been disunited, if that's a word, or not united because of race. You could have done a whole lot about that, and you did not. And I would like to ask you why. I would like to sit down and have dinner with you and discuss the state of America during that time and what are some things that you could have done to change that, and why didn't you? So it would be deep, a deep conversation. I would also ask him about his upbringing. So, I wouldn't just dive into all those things, and I wouldn't be rude but I would still want to know, like, dude, you could have done a whole lot, to turn things around. And why did you not? Was it because of your white privilege? Was it because, I want to remain status quo? I would have just wanted to know a lot of why that is. So, all right. Well, I have gone over an hour, and this actually has been fun having this conversation with you guys about, me and, the first podcast of 2025. So I hope that you have found it to be enjoyable. Again, thank you for listening to Think About It with Jayden Miller. There are going to be more of these, and I am already liking being able to have these conversations and to share my thoughts and my experiences and my opinions and my expertise on a lot of things as well. And so I hope that you will continue to listen. And please, again, like, follow, and share on my YouTube channel, and like, comment, and follow on your favorite podcast platform. This is Jayden Miller saying, again, thank you for listening. Think About It with Jayden Miller. I look forward to talking to you next time. Have a great day.
Thank you for listening to Think About It with Jayden Miller. Don't forget to like and subscribe to his YouTube channel and like and follow on your favorite podcast platform.